There is this idea that if you can't sprint, run. And if you can't run, walk. And if you cannot walk, at least crawl. And I really like that saying. It's about moving forward, it's powerful, and it is strong. But there's one thing I don't perfectly like about it. It's a direction, because it's kind of aiming downwards. So I thought, can we flip it upside down? If you can't walk, try flying. I'd like to take you on a journey through my life to explore this very idea a little more. And I'd like to do so literally and metaphorically speaking. Now let's start with the if in the sentence, if you can't walk, try flying. Because the if implies that there was a time when walking was possible. And for me, that was definitely the case. I was obsessed with sports. I found a picture of me, you see me on the bottom right, playing handball with my team. And to be precise, it's not really my team, because I'm still a junior. And I was one of the only juniors that was allowed to train with the big guys. And of course, that makes you dream big. And I thought to myself, well, maybe one day I could make it on the national team. Now, if this idea grew wings, more later. What did I do if I didn't train handball? Well, I still did sports. I just loved it. And here you see a video of me playing basketball with a friend, but I was also playing soccer. I was skiing in the winter, skating in the summer, running, swimming, whatever had to do with sports was absolutely my cup of tea. But it was only when I turned 17 that I found a sport with which I absolutely fell in love with. It's a martial art called Champa-Do. And I found a video of me training at the beach, and I think that will show you in the best possible way why I was so in love with that sport. Because it was a combination of two worlds. On the one hand, we had these strong, powerful movements, maybe reminding you of the first part of the sentence that I mentioned in the beginning. And on the other side, it's really gentle. It's soft, and it's a lot about flow. I wanted to open my own school of martial arts to teach other people what I've been doing for quite a while. And I thought, well, it might be good if I'm not only good at sports, but I also understand what's happening if you do sports. So I decided to study human movement science and sports at ETHZurich. At the same time, I was privileged enough to also start the sports teacher education, which was really fun, because we were allowed to do sports every day. Well, we were even mandated to do so. And I found a video doing parkour. We had to finish this course as fast as possible. And all the students were timed. And believe it or not, but in this very video, I set a new all-time record for this parkour. And looking at it just brings goosebumps back. I still remember all the movements, actually. And now we will swing. Here we go. Another sport that I didn't do before I started my sports teacher education was actually gymnastics. So in the next video, you're going to see me doing gymnastics. I'll jump off a trampoline and do a multiple front flip. And what you just witnessed was my accident. Now, if this came as a surprise to you, that's exactly how I felt. And I could take you through all the emotions and what exactly happened and how I coped with it. But for the time being, I'd like to focus on one specific outcome of this moment. And that brings us to the second part of the sentence I mentioned in the beginning. It's the part about not being able to walk. Now, to be precise, it was not only that I wasn't able to walk anymore, but I wasn't able to crawl. I wasn't able to lift an arm, turn my head, or even speak a full sentence. Moving forward became harder than ever before, literally. but at the same time also more important than ever before. And I remember how I cried when the doctors came and told me that rehab would start a day later than what they previously announced. I really wanted to move forward. I wanted to start training, although I had no clue what training would look like. This was my first training session. It doesn't look spectacular, but my injury is on neck level. So in the beginning, I couldn't move my arms nor my legs, and my blood pressure regulation was terrible. So just tilting the bed a little bit would let my blood pressure drop, and I would get dizzy. I would feel like throwing up, and just before I would faint, they would let me back down to recover. Once I was able to sit long enough, they helped me to get in an electric wheelchair. And that was a lot of freedom suddenly coming back. Here I was even able to lift my arm already. And another milestone was when I was able to brush my teeth on my own. And yes, I still have some support on my elbow, but at least I could brush my teeth. Because if you've never tried it, ask someone tonight to brush your teeth. It's so annoying, and maybe focus on not moving your head, because I wasn't able to do that. Wow. If I compare myself to this moment, I've come a long way and I've improved a lot. But if I compare myself to before the accident, especially physically speaking, I'd go crazy. And then people will tell you, don't focus on what isn't possible, but focus on what is possible. And I absolutely agree. But I'd like to take it even a step further. Don't just focus on what you can do. Focus on what only you can do. And I think that is where the magic happens. Now, what does that mean? To me, it means if you face a disadvantage, try to make that disadvantage your biggest advantage. How to do so? Well, I've got 3 examples and 3 ingredients how to achieve that. Are you ready for it? Yes. Awesome. Let's start with the first one. So the first ingredient I'd like to share is perspective. Now, a few years after my rehab, a crazy idea got stuck in my head. I thought I'd like to go wakeboarding. And people told me, well, you haven't done it before your accident, have you? And I hadn't, so they said it's going to be difficult. And they were absolutely right. So in the first video, you see me trying to hold on to the bar. It's ripped out of my hands. Second one, I tried with my wrists. Didn't work either. And on the last one, I got out of the water, but my trunk wasn't strong enough, and I fell over and over again. Now I changed perspective, and I did so literally, 180 degrees. I said, you know what? Let's attach the rope to my harness, and on the other side, the guys on the boat should hold on to the bar. And they laughed at me. They said, you're crazy, it's not going to work. And this time, I was right. Giovanni was able to hold me with just one hand on the Lake of Garda. Beautiful feeling and a lot of fun. Now, since we're talking about the last part of the sentence, trying to fly, you might say, well, here you just compensated for a deficit. Where is the flying part? And it came in when we realized that my hands were suddenly free. Now that my hands were free, I was able to touch the water. And that did something special that probably no quadriplegic ever did before out there on the water. If you touch the water, you can do sharp turns. And you can enjoy this sport on a whole new level. And I think you can tell it by the smile on my face. It's just an absolute fantastic feeling. And yes, we cut it here because I'm going to fall next. So let's leave it with a good picture. But I thought, now that I have so much control over the board, maybe I could even go kite surfing. Now, it feels wrong to just click and show you how I'm kite surfing, because it was such a long way. A lot of work, but for the time being, this is what it looked like. And it was phenomenal just being carried on the waves with the force of nature, the wind. awesome feeling, especially because there was a cool team in the background who made that possible. I didn't feel maximally safe though, because all the equipment was built for paraplegics and not quadriplegics, as I am. So I decided, you know what? Since there is no equipment that I can buy, I got to build my own. And I called my friends from ETHZURich and they explained what my challenge was. And they said, you know what? Nowadays, it's possible to 3D print aluminum. So we did exactly that. We 3D printed it. We connected all those special parts to bars, and out came a really nice chair that was exactly fitted to me. And you see here Stefan with the glue doing all of the work. Now in the end, we strapped it on a board, we tested it, and it worked just as we hoped. It was amazing, and people told me, now you should sell this seat. And I said, no, we'll just upload it on my website, give it out for free so that more people can do exactly what we did and profit from our experience. Now, and now that I had a seat in which I felt really comfy, I thought, let's go crazy. Next step would be hydrofoiling. And if you don't know what that is, now we'll talk about flying. Because a hydrofoil is a wing. It's attached to a mast, and on top of that is a board. The board that you see on this picture. Now, if the speed gets high enough, there will be lift, and you'll get out of the water, literally. And that is what it looked like. We first tried it behind the boat. It worked until it didn't. My trunk is not strong enough. I don't have the hands in the water anymore, so it looked like an impossible task. We'll get back to it later. But I'd like to continue with the second ingredient. And the second ingredient would be curiosity. I am a very curious guy, and I think that's something that helped me during rehab. Because whenever I didn't train, I went to see the scientists. And I talked to them. I was really curious what they were up to. And one morning I was having breakfast, and the head of the clinic came. Didn't expect him to be there. He's like, David, we got to talk. I said, yes. He said, I know you're a curious guy, but there's one scientist you don't know yet. Go and visit him. He's 2 blocks away, and he's working on rats, implanting them with electrodes to stimulate the spinal cord to regain function in the legs. So I went there, and I met Grégoire Courtine. We became friends, and in 2016, he called me and said, David, I know you have a big disadvantage not being able to walk, but on the other hand, you're a really good participant for us to try all those experiments on humans. Are you in? And he further explained that since I was studying human movement sciences and I was used to train, that would be the perfect mix. And he was absolutely right. We trained for 6 months. It was some of the hardest training I've ever done in my life. And pictures like the following went all around the world and brought me into public attention. I regained some function in the legs. I could walk, at least with a walker, and it was a fantastic experience. Now, the third ingredient I'd like to talk about is courage. I already explained that I have deficits in all 4 extremities, and believe it or not, there is a sport that you're only allowed to do if you have impairments in at least 3 extremities. The sport is called wheelchair rugby. And you might ask yourself, well, why are you talking about courage now? Well, the sport used to be called murder ball. And that's what it looks like if you crash hard and you fall. So even in this chair, in the beginning, I was scared of doing exactly this because of the possibility of falling backwards. And in wheelchair rugby, that happens every now and then. And it did need some courage, and I was happy that there were people around who've even had more impairments than I had and started doing this sport, so I was inspired to do so as well. In the beginning, I told you that my goal was to become a national team player in handball. Spoiler, it didn't work out. But in wheelchair rugby, I did make it on the national team. And I even became co-captain, and I was in the starting line for the tournament where we qualified for the World Championship the first time in 16 years. It was really a long ride and a lot of fun. Now I'm sure if you think about your life, you'll realize that there are moments where you ponder about what isn't possible instead of focusing what only you can do. And I'd like to encourage you to sometimes switch perspective. And you might find that a whole new world opens up to you and others. A world full of possibilities and adventures. I'd like to encourage you to be curious and let curiosity lead you, and maybe find that something that is within you suddenly aligns with something in the outside world that is needed and more important than you. And last but not least, be courageous. Risk starting at rock bottom, and you might find that a dream that was in the back of your mind and in your heart for a long, long time suddenly becomes reality. And now I'd like to combine those two forces that we've been talking about, the forward force and the upward force, to get both the best out of the two worlds. If you can't sprint, run. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, try flying. And every now and then, you might get those two forces into perfect balance. And you realize it's no longer about being able to walk or not being able to walk, but just about flying. Thank you.